Morning, guys. So we're starting chapter 4, which is 4.1. So I need you to get this note out and ready to go. So it says in this chapter we will use algebra to solve equations in one variable and to isolate a variable in formulas. Consider the following equations. What operation connects the constant 5 to the variable x? So in this case, we've got a plus 5, so that connects it to the x. In this case, we've got a minus 5, subtract 5. In this case, when you have a coefficient and a variable, okay, that's multiplication. And in this case, when you have a fraction, that's division. So we're doing this for a reason, and you'll see why later on. Let's just, don't worry about this part over here. It says to solve an equation algebraically means to find the value of the variable that makes the statement true. So to solve an equation algebraically means to find the value of the variable that makes the statement true. This is also called finding the root of the equation. So sometimes in the textbook they'll say find the root of the following equation. To solve a one-step equation, isolate the variable by performing the opposite operation. I'll explain this later on. By performing the opposite operation method or the balance method. Actually, you should put and or the balance method. To solve a one-step operation, isolate the variable by performing the opposite operation method or the balance method. So I'm going to tell you about the balance method down here and the opposite operation method. And we kind of use both of them. Let me just move my paper up here. So here's a simple equation, okay? X plus 7 equals 25. You probably already know that the answer for x has got to be 18. But we want you to do it algebraically, okay? We don't want you to guess and check, okay? Because eventually the questions are going to get a lot harder and we can't just guess and check. So on the left side here is the balance method. So let's just rewrite this question again, but let's just spread it out a little bit. The balance method means this. On the left side, so this is the left side of the equation, this is the right side of the equation, okay? The equal to sign dictates what the left side is and what the right side is, okay? So on the left side, we've got a plus 7 there. How do we get rid of a plus 7? We do the balance method, which means if I subtract 7 from the left side, so let's just really small go like that, subtract 7. The balance method means what I do to one side, I must do to the other side. So if I'm subtracting 7 on this side, I must subtract 7 on that side. Okay? So your next line would be, these two guys cancel, plus 7 minus 7. So you're left with x, drop it. And then 25 subtract 7, 18. Okay? That's what we call the balance method. To be honest with you, most of us use the opposite operation method. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that right now as well. So I'm going to just drop the same question. Okay, the opposite operation method means this. Right now we've got a +7 that we've got to get rid of on the left side because we want to leave x all by itself. That's what we mean by the word isolate. Okay, leave x all by itself. So I'm going to circle this +7. Notice how I'm circling the plus as well because the plus belongs to the 7. And I'd like to move this guy on the right side. And one rule in math is that if you're grabbing something from one side of the equation and bringing it to the other side, you have to change the signs. So this plus sign magically becomes a minus when you bring it over. So your next line is this. There's nothing left on the left side, so I'm going to drop the x. I'm going to drop the 25, that stays, okay? And a +7 becomes a subtract 7. And now you just clean this up. These are like terms, right? Constants. And you got x is equal to 18. Okay, we need to see this method over here, how you're doing the steps for isolating for a variable, because eventually, I know this is only 2 lines, eventually you'll have 3, 4 lines that you're going to have to do. Okay, so let's just flip to the back of the sheet. And let's do this question. So a subtract 54 equals -201. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle this minus 54. Notice how I also circle the minus sign. And show yourself that that's got to come to the right. Okay? So what are you left with? You're left with a on the left side equal to, didn't touch the -201, drop it, don't lose your negatives. You're bringing over a minus 54, which becomes a plus 54. Okay, and now you're just going to clean up this line. On your calculator, -201 plus 54, -147. And that's your final answer. Okay, last one for letter C, and then I want to talk about the opposite operation method. So for letter C, again, I want to get rid of this -31. So I'm going to circle this -31, and I'm going to show myself that I'm going to bring it over to the right. So now I'm just left with this positive x. There's no purpose writing a positive, so you can just drop the x. Drop the -15, didn't touch it. Bring it over, a -31 becomes +31. Okay, and now you just clean up the right side over here. And you got x is equal to 16. All right, fair enough so far. So letter D, E, F, and G, they all have to do with the opposite operation method. So you'll notice that we grab something and bring it to the right. So we do the opposite operation method or the balance method, okay, whatever one you choose to do. In this case, we've got the opposite operation method. So if you're looking at this question, you're asking yourself, how do I get rid of this 3? Well, this 3 right now is multiplied by the y because there's a coefficient here and a variable, okay? So how do we get rid of multiplication? We do division. So this is the balance method where what you do to one side, you must do to the other side. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Okay? So this is actually the balance method. I don't know why I wrote operation opposite here. So this is the balance method. So again, how do I get rid of a multiplication? I'm dividing. In math, what you do to one side, you must do to the other side. So if I'm dividing this side by 3, I must divide this side by 3. Now watch what happens. These threes cancel. I need you to put a line through those. This can be a very light line, doesn't have to be dark, but I have to see that you're canceling these threes out. Because 3 divided by 3 is really 1, and a 1y is perfect. That's just y. That's what we want. So what are we left with on the left side? We're left with y. And on the right side, 18 divided by 3, 6. Okay? So again, we're starting with multiplication. How do you get rid of multiplication? You do division. In letter E, it's the same thing. Now remember, there's really a 1 here, which is really a negative 1. But this is still multiplication over here. How do I get rid of multiplication? I do division. What do I have to get rid of? I got to get rid of this negative 1, which is multiplied by the A. How do I get rid of multiplication? I do division. So if I'm dividing this side by negative 1, I must divide this side by negative 1. Okay? The negatives 1 cancel. Just put a line through them. Dropping the A. 11 divided by negative 1. Final answer, negative 11. Okay? In letter F and G, we've got division here to start with. Okay? So this is division. What's the opposite of division? Multiplication. So I've got to multiply both sides by 3 to get rid of this 3. Now, in math, we show multiplication with brackets. So I'm going to do like this, a bracket 3 on the left side. And in math, what you must do to one side, you must do to the other side. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you a quick way how to get rid of these 3's on the left. They just cancel out. So you can put one line through them. Okay? And now you're left with P on the left. Drop it. Right side, negative 21. And you're done. You've solved for the variable. So again, let's repeat that. I started with division. How do I get rid of division? I have to do multiplication. What am I multiplying by? I'm multiplying both sides by 3 because I want to get rid of that denominator. Multiply the left side by 3. Multiply the right side by 3. On the left side, these 3's cancel. On the right side, negative 7 times 3, negative 21. Okay? We're going to do the same thing on letter G. What do I have to get rid of on letter G? I got to get rid of this negative 3, which right now is division. So what's the opposite operation? Multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides, in this case now, by negative 3. Okay, so these brackets can be really small. They don't have to be big. That's just to show you and to show me what you're doing on the left side, what you're doing on the right side. Okay, so these negative 3's on the left, they cancel. Just one line through them. They can be very light. I have to see these numbers when I'm marking them on a test, so don't scratch them out in full where I can't see them. What's left on the left? M, drop it. Right side, 12 times negative 3, negative 36. Okay? Now in the next section over here, we're going to have a mixture of multiplying and dividing and adding and subtracting like we did on the first question. That's what we call a two-step equation. So in the bottom box over here, in a two-step equation, there is more than one term on one side. To solve this equation, perform the operations in reverse order. So we like to do the adding and subtracting first, and then we do the multiplying and dividing next. Okay, I'll show you an example of what we mean by all this. We're also going to check the solution. So what they mean by that is, here's an answer of negative 36. We can do something to this negative 36 to prove that the answer is right. So on a test, let's say, for example, it might say, solve for the following variable, and then check it. So I'm going to show you how to check it, your answer. Okay? So to check the solution of an equation, isolate the root, which is your answer, into the left side and the right side of the equation, and then both sides must be equal. I'm going to show you this on the next page where we have a couple of questions where we have to check it. Okay, so we're going to go to the next page now. So this is what I mean by a two-step operation. You see there's multiplication over here with the x, but there's also an adding right here, 25. So we want you to do the adding and subtracting first. So the first thing I need you to do is get rid of this 25. You see, your goal is to leave everything on the left side. The only thing you want on the left side is x. So your goal is to get rid of the plus 25 and eventually get rid of this times 5. Okay? We want you to do this first. So how do we do this again? We're grabbing this plus 25, notice how I circle the plus, and show yourself that you're bringing it to the right. Okay, so I didn't touch the 5x, drop it. Drop the equal to sign. I didn't touch the 500, drop it. I'm bringing over a plus 25, which becomes minus 25 on the right. Okay, now, you can clean this up, and whenever we can clean something up, whenever we have like terms, I need you to clean those up. So I'm going to keep on dropping the 5x. 500 subtract 25 is 475. And now you're into multiplication over here. So this is multiplication. How do you get rid of multiplication? You do division. So now I'm going to divide both sides by 5. Okay, left side, these 5's cancel. And look what you're left with. Drop the x. On your calculator, 475 divided by 5, 95. Okay, so again, let me repeat it. We want to get rid of the adding and subtracting first. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this plus 25. How do you do that? You bring that to the right. Okay, then you got 500 minus 25, which is 475. Now I got to get rid of this multiplication of 5. Okay, how do I get rid of multiplication? I divide. I divide both sides by 5. In math, when you do, you have to do things on both sides. So if I'm dividing this side by 5, I got to divide the right side by 5. Okay, and I get an answer of 95. Now here's the check that I was talking about. Okay, so I need you to write down LS, which stands for left side, and over here I want you to put RS, which stands for right side. Okay, so I need you to write down in the original question everything on the left side. So in the original question, everything on the left side was this, and that's it. And then I need you to write down in the original question, everything on the right side. Well, the only thing on the right side in the original question was 500. Okay, now we're going to take this 95. Remember I said you got to do something with your answer. You got to take that 95 and put it right there in brackets. Okay, so 5, open bracket, 95. Don't forget to drop the plus 25. Okay, now if you do this with your calculator, okay, you're going to get an answer of 500. And that's what you're looking for. Look at my 2 fingers. You're looking for the same answer. If you got the same answer on the left side and on the right side, you know 100% that your 95 answer over here is correct. And what we usually do is when it checks through, we put a little check mark there. Okay, so we're asked to check this question. We're not asked to check letter B. So on a test, when you're asked to check something, you're given marks for this section, but you're also given marks for this section. Okay? Let's do letter B. So again, do the adding and subtracting first. So think about what you want to get rid of on the left side over here first. Okay? Because there's 2 things here. You got to get rid of this -3, and you got to get rid of this -2. Now my question to you is, which one do you get rid of first? And I'm hoping that you said you get rid of your adding and subtracting first, because this is multiplication. So I'm going to grab that negative 2 and I'm going to bring it to the right. And that's the only thing I'm going to do on the first line. So I'm going to drop my negative 3m, drop the equal to sign, drop the 16. So notice how I drop things that I didn't touch. I'm bringing over a negative 2, which becomes positive 2. Okay? Now, you've got like terms over here. Clean up your like terms first. Okay, why have 2 terms when you can have 1? So again, didn't touch the minus 3m. 16 plus 2, 18. Okay, now you've got multiplication. How do you get rid of multiplication? Division. What are you going to divide it by? Negative 3. Both sides. Okay, on the left side now, these negative 3's cancel. Put a light line through them. What are you left with? M. 18 divided by negative 3. Negative 6. And you're done. Okay? The question does not ask to check it, so you don't have to bother checking it. Okay? All right, letter C. P divided by 2, subtract 3 equals 7. So look at the left side. Eventually we got to get rid of this 2, and eventually we got to get rid of this minus 3. Okay? So there's 2 numbers here that we got to get rid of. Do one number at a time. Which one are you going to do first? And I'm hoping you said I'm going to get rid of the adding and subtracting first. Here's some subtracting. Notice how I circle the subtraction sign. And show yourself that you're bringing that to the right side. And that's the only thing you're going to do on the first step. So I'm dropping the p divided by 2. Dropping the 7. Bringing over a minus 3 becomes plus 3. Okay? Now again, you've got a cleanup line here. You've got constants over here. So clean up these constants to a nice 10. Okay? And now, how do you get rid of a divided by 2? You multiply by 2. How do you show multiplication? Brackets. These are really small now. Okay? Left side, these 2's cancel. And look what you're left with on the left side. Right side, 20. Okay, now this question says to check it. So again, you've got to go left side, right side. In the original question, there's my original question, write down everything on the left side, exactly how it appeared. In the original question, write down everything on the right side. There's only a 7 on the right side. Now I'm going to take 20 and I'm going to put it right where P is. So now it becomes 20 divided by 2, subtract 3. Okay, 20 divided by 2 is 10. 10 subtract 3, 7. And look what you got. Look at my 2 fingers. That's what you're looking for. Okay, if you don't get the same answer over here, you've either gone wrong somewhere here or you've gone wrong somewhere here in your answer. So that's a red flag for you when you're asked to check it. Okay, if these 2 numbers are different, you've gone wrong somewhere, so I need you to recheck that. Okay, if they're right, you put a little check mark and you're done. Just let me sharpen my pencil here. Okay, now in this case, again, in this case, this is a fraction, okay? So I'm going to grab this guy. Yeah, shoot. I'm going to grab the 2/3 and I'm going to bring it over to the right. So I'm dropping a 2y, drop the equal to sign, dropping the -10. Okay? Negative 2/3 becomes positive 2/3. Don't think about putting that as a decimal. Okay? You'll learn in math that we don't like denominators. Okay? So in math, how do we get rid of a denominator? We multiply everything, in this case, by 3. Okay? We got to multiply this guy by 3. We got to multiply this guy by 3. We also have to multiply this guy by 3. Okay? So how do you show that? Do a little bracket 3 here. A little bracket 3 on top of the -10. And on the left side, a little bracket 3. Okay? Now this is not an exponent. Okay, guys? It's multiplication. So watch how I'm going to get rid of my fraction here. That's going to cancel, right? This is going to become what? 3 times 2y, right? This is last chapter. 6y. Multiply your coefficients. Okay? -10 times 3, -30. Don't forget to drop the +2. So you see that what I did? I got rid of my denominators there. Okay? So again, I'm bringing this guy to the right. Okay? I still have a denominator though, so I'm going to get rid of my denominator. Okay? The mistake that students make is they just do this once, and you can't in math. In math, if you're multiplying this by 3, this has to be multiplied by 3, this has to be multiplied by 3. Okay? So now, again, look what I got here under my finger. I've got like terms. Okay, so clean up the like terms. -30 plus 2. Okay, now I've got multiplication here. How do I get rid of multiplication? Division. Okay, left side, 6's cancel. And look what you're left with. Y equals -28 over 6 reduces to, they're both even numbers, -14 over 6. Okay, don't put that as a mix, just leave it like that. Don't put it as a decimal. Okay, so sometimes you're going to get a fraction of an answer, which is a perfect example of why we need you to show these steps. It's impossible that you're going to be able to figure out what the value of y is if it's a fraction without doing these steps. Okay? So you need to understand these steps and which one you're doing first. All right? Now, simple word problem over here on the bottom. So it says Kelly spent a total of $10 on a pen and 2 mechanical pencils. The pen cost $4. The pencils each cost the same amount. Write an equation that models this equation. An equation has to have an equal to sign. So let's look. 2 mechanical pencils is 2p. The pen costs $4, so it's plus 4. She spent a total of $10. Okay, so that's your equation. This word problem over here as an equation is this. Okay, now we want you to solve for p. Okay, so I need you to drop this equation. You're going to get rid of the adding and subtracting first, so you're going to grab this guy, bring it to the right. Okay, you got like terms here. 10 subtract 4 is 6. Bring yourself up. And now you're going to divide both sides by 2, right, to get rid of this 2 over here.